Without a chair, I don't have a preamble. We're gonna behave.
That's it. That's a
We
preamble.
know we're being recorded and
That's why I'm on mute.
on the website. Yeah. So, and I did reach out to Alicia Greco and she said there's no hope. That's not what she said. She said there's no, she hasn't had any luck, but she'll keep us posted. So on the agenda, I think you have Mina as the first act, right?
Yeah. No, approving our minutes from 4/21.
Okay, great.
If everyone has had a chance to review.
Mhm.
And I don't know how Newbury, the municipality, requires the roll call, but it seems like most municipalities require folks to state their name at the beginning.
Okay, want to do that?
Michelle Willette,
Jean Anderson.
Marguerite Flanagan.
Amy Thurlow.
Robin Lawson.
And I think that is it.
excellent.
Awesome.
So should I make a motion to approve the 4/21, April 21st, 2021 minutes?
Yeah, and I can second that. And
All
then-
those approve? Aye.
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 Aye. Oh, wait, I can't vote.
Can't vote, Robin, sorry.
Why can't you vote, Robin?
She's ex officio now.
just helping us now, really.
You mean you're nobody?
No,
No.
not at all.
No,
She's
I'm
not a
official.
nobody.
I'm officially ex officio, but I am not, my term as chair expired June 30th.
So you're not a member at all anymore?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's kind of a dotted line. Maybe, Mina, maybe you could explain that.
Yeah, so according to the statutes, I think a lot of municipal committees have this, but there's a term limit for how many years, consecutive years you can serve as a member. And so for the local cultural councils, you can serve 2 terms, with each term being 3 years. And so Robin has completed 2 consecutive terms. And so she officially has to step off for a year, but then she can return. But members are allowed to remain on as either a volunteer or ex officio, which essentially is a volunteer. And so those folks can, well, anyone can attend the meetings, right? But those
Yeah.
folks can take part in the planning and the conversations. They just can't vote.
Cool.
And Bart just joined too.
Hi, Barb.
Bart, you're on mute.
I apologize. Lloyd and I were talking away, but we were on the Google Meet and not the Zoom link.
Oh, well, I'm hoping you had a good time.
We did, and we were on time. Let the record show that we were on time.
So we
Okay.
started by just stating our names. So if you want to do that and make it official.
Okay, I'm Bart Bracken. Lloyd should be here in a second.
Yeah, so maybe we should just stall for a moment and wait for Bart. I can actually introduce why Mina's here, and that is because made a little bit of a mistake as the treasurer, and Mina talked me through it this week. And we thought that it would be a good idea to do kind of a level set orientation to make sure we all know what we're doing, really. So that's, and Mina, you said you're doing that with a number of other groups in the.
Yeah, there's a lot of like leadership transitions, but also folks, like new folks joining the local cultural council program. And so we will, so I'm crafting the email right now, actually. Well, before this meeting, I was crafting it. But we do have 2 webinars that are coming up. So one is going to be an overview of the updated LCC guidelines, which for the most part are the same as last year. And that webinar is taking place next Tuesday, August 10th at 6 p.m. So if you want to put that into your calendar, and sometime this evening or tomorrow morning, you should receive an email with the Zoom link as well as the time and date. And then we're holding another one on Thursday, August 12th. And that one is going to, just determine this, so let me just double check. That one is going to go over the annual report. And so I don't know if anyone here was able to attend our most recent webinar on Smart Simple, because that's the new platform that all LCC members will need to log into. but that's sort of going to be the new Mass Culture. And so Mass Culture is going away except for the public pages. And so all the resources and how you conduct LCC business will be done on Smart Simple. So we held that webinar last week, and we're currently getting the link to the recording. So I'll send that out to everyone too. But there are a lot of changes just at all levels happening. And so I'm available for these types of one-on-one group meetings. And of course, like via phone, if anyone wants to chat. But we're also rolling out other webinars as the cycle begins, because we realize there's a lot to cover, and there's also a lot of new members. So, yeah.
Mina, can you say again? So the webinar on Tuesday night is going over
The guidelines. So the updated
guidelines.
LCC guidelines. Yep. And we will, as a part of that, also talk about the direct grant program, which is where LCCs can decide to switch from reimbursement grants to direct upfront granting. And then also we'll cover council priorities, which is in the guidelines. But those are sort of the three general things we'll be talking about. And that's at 6 p.m. And the one on Thursday is also at 6 p.m. And that's the one going over the annual report. And yeah, and by August 9th, LCCs will have access to Smart Simple to register and create your accounts. And so that's sort of why we wanted to hold the annual report webinar after that date, so that you can actually log in and see what it looks like, and we can walk you through every step of the way.
And the last email, I think, said that we all need our own accounts, right? It's not one shared account anymore. Am I confused with something else?
Yeah, so it's not a shared account. So here's the thing. We're not forcing every member to sign up and create an account if they really don't want to for some reason. But in order to create an account, you will need to use your own email address. So you can no longer share one email address for all the members. Yeah, and I mean, of course, we want each member to create their account and be involved and invested in the entire process throughout. And being on Smart Simple will also ensure that everyone receives all the communication about the various workshops and the resources and any other news items that we have.
Perfect. So maybe we should get started knowing that Lloyd is probably just having technical issues and is on the way.
Okay.
Yeah. Bart, we voted on the minutes from 4/21. Did you get a chance to review? Do you have any changes? Oh, you're on mute.
I reviewed them and they were fine. I was not able to attend the meeting, so I read them just, based on what you had written. So they seem fine to me.
Okay, great, thanks. So, well, now my document just went completely missing. Oh, here it is. Sorry. So, oh, I have the wrong document open. I have the other minutes. So then we were going to have Mina talk about just your discussion that you were going to have, Amy.
No, she's going to do an orientation.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you want to should we do that first? So Mina doesn't have to stay for the whole
Yeah,
meeting?
definitely.
And let's, so I have slides, but feel free to sort of interject, and we can keep this very informal. Because as I mentioned, we're going to have other webinars coming up. So let's see. All right, let me just share my slides here. Oh, actually, I think first I want to show you just our website, the Mass Cultural Council website, because our members aren't used to going to our home website, which is massculturalcouncil.org. And right now you can find a lot of the information pertaining to the current grant cycle here. So it's massculturalcouncil.org, and then you want to click on communities, because the local cultural council program is a part of the community program. And within this, You can find other programs too if you're curious to find out about our Cultural Facilities Fund or any of our cultural investment portfolio, like projects grants, for example. But this is where the local cultural council program information lives, and for the time being. So here, let's see, application process. So this page currently has updated links. And so if you're curious about the guidelines, you can click on this, and we have the revised guidelines for FY22 up. You can also look at some key dates that are coming up. So the online application opens September 1st. The deadline is October 15th, and the LCC annual report is due January 18th. And so we have important dates sort of on the side there for you as well. The other important thing that you probably want to take a look at is this link. So guidance for local cultural councils and their grantees in response to COVID-19. So this is something that we first put up soon after the pandemic began. And it's something that we've continually revised. And it's something that we're continuing to look at going into FY22 because the pandemic is still here. And there's a lot of upheaval, but also a lot of various like circumstances that our constituents are facing at this moment. And so you'll see here some FAQ information about, virtual programming. Is it considered public benefit in FY22 still? And from our side, we believe it can be a public benefit, but obviously it's up to you to decide as a council. Operating support. So operating support has always been eligible under the local cultural council program, but I think a lot of our councils were used to just funding programmatic expenses. And so operating costs and support are things that you can consider to continue prioritizing and or just funding. And then venues and timeframes, being flexible around that. Some language around accessibility and how to go about trying to explain accessibility to your potential applicant pool. And then there's FAQ about the grant cycle being used to support relief efforts, so COVID-19 relief efforts. And so you can, but keep in mind that this has to be done in conversation with your municipality because the municipality might have certain guidelines or restrictions around relief funds. And also you'll have to create a separate application process and evaluation process for the relief efforts. So anyway, this has a lot of different things about it. There's also a description of the direct grant if you're interested in going towards the direct grant program. So I just wanted to share that with you because I know Mass-Culture is going to go away by the end of this Friday. And so this is where you can find, LCC related information. So now I will share
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
So you're one of those two webinars coming up. You're going to be going over those guidelines?
Yep. So this will probably be discussed in our webinar on the 10th. So the one about the guidelines.
Right. Thank you.
And we'll record all of our, webinars and share them. So if you can't make it, you can always review it later. All right. So let's try this. So this is just a brief overview. So I shared with you where the guidelines live, and the purpose of the guidelines is to provide guidance. And we do have one update, which we'll go into a little bit later. But the biggest change is that we're allowing councils to take up to 20% of their fiscal year allocation. Usually it's only 15%. But we are expecting, knock on wood, an increase in the allocation for every LCC. And we understand that a lot of LCCs have started putting on council programs, and the additional, the increase to the 20% was in consideration of the costs and expenses related to the council programs. So we just wanted to provide the LCCs with a bit more support around the council programs. And then in terms of the responsibilities of LCC, so in addition to awarding grant monies and organizing programs, there's also community engagement, so soliciting community input and assessing local cultural needs, serving as a resource for the local cultural community, and also advocating for arts and culture at the local, regional, and state levels. In terms of the grant cycle, we're going back to the pre-pandemic timeline. So the grant will open on September 1st. So by the end of August 31st is when you need to post your council priorities and also your contact information. And here it says Massage Culture, but it will be on the Smart Simple website. But that's really important to get in before September 1st, because when the application opens, that's when a lot of applicants will start looking at the council pages to determine whether or not their project aligns with the council priorities. And it's also when applicants might start contacting you. In terms of the deadline, yes, it is October 15th, and the timestamp is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Soon after, it could even be October 16th, but you'll hold voting meetings between late October, November, and review the applications. And at the end of February or March, you will be able to send your decision notifications to applicants. So some things I'm not going to really spend much time on because I think you know. So we went over the terms. So each term is 3 years and you can serve 2 consecutive terms. There are instances where a member whose term has expired can continue serving. This is from our safe harbor provision, but there needs to be real intentional actions towards trying to recruit new members. And it seems like the Newberry Cultural Council has enough members. Are you feeling good about that in terms of membership?
I am.
Okay.
Or we need a chair.
Yeah, other than
Okay.
that.
So let's briefly talk about that a bit. So there are councils that have, especially in the last year, started having 2 folks take over each position. So there have been co-treasurers to split or share the treasurer duties, and also co-chairs. And so that's something to consider. We do recommend that every council has a chair because it does help with the organizing and coordination of everything. But you can also decide to divide up the various responsibilities among the members, so that not one person or 2 people maybe feel overextended or overburdened. And so keep in mind that the co-chair or co-treasurer is a total possibility. And I think it would be good for the members to think about what they want to what you want to contribute to the council. And so thinking about your particular experiences and skill sets as a way to craft your particular position and scope of responsibilities. And so that's something that you can think about and then discuss further as a council. So I do recommend, a chair or a co-chair, but that's something that you can continue just kind of exploring. All right, so the management of local cultural council funds. So technically, all funds related to the local cultural council need to be kept in one account. And this account is with the municipality, and you are entitled to the interest that accumulates in the account. Locally raised funds, so that's anything that's gifted or donated to you or that you have raised through fundraisers. They can be spent on other items that may not fall within the MCC guidelines, as long as they're used for the benefit of arts and culture in your community. funds are distributed by the town accountant or equivalent. So what happens is, and this probably recently happened for Newberry, but once you submit your annual report, that comes to us, and that signals to our fiscal department to send a contract to your municipality. And so once we receive hard copies with what signatures of the contract, then we release the funds to your municipality, so usually to the town accountant. And so that's sort of the overall process of how funds are transferred. Okay, so with MCC funds, so any state funding needs to be spent in the current grant cycle, or if for some reason a portion gets unspent, you need to release it in the following grant cycle. You can't hold on to state money. In terms of, and then it also has to align with all of the state guidelines and reporting. In terms of the locally raised funds, there's no deadline. You can keep it as part of your rainy day fund if you want. And you don't have to follow the state guidelines, but it must be in support of arts and culture. And because you're a municipal committee, all funds and financial activity needs to be reported for transparency's sake. So in terms of fundraising, I can't remember right now, have you done fundraising as a council?
No.
So if you're interested in fundraising, you always have the option to do so. And that could be holding an actual event or asking certain organizations or perhaps corporations for donations. It can also be asking your municipality to invest in the local cultural council and to provide matching funds or to provide any additional funds. It could also be, I know some councils have, oh, what is it called? They just have like a donate button that leads to some sort of crowdsourcing platform. And so you can also think about that. But you do have the ability to fundraise as a local cultural council. So in terms of the administrative funds, you can reserve up to 5% of your fiscal year state allocation to go towards administrative expenses. So this is anything related to, so in terms of the paid staff, it's not, so LCC members wouldn't be eligible, but let's say you wanted to hire or contract a social media person to help you with messaging, then you could use the admin funds to go towards that person. It also covers postage and use stationery, copying, publicity fees. So that's sort of what admin funds can be used for. You can also use them for refreshments at public events. You just can't use admin funds to cover refreshments for a council meeting. In terms of the timeline, you need to calculate and vote on and set aside funds at the beginning of the grant cycle. And so in section 2 of the annual report, there's a question that asks how much of your admin funds you want to set aside. And so that's where, before you fill out that section, you would meet as a council and determine if you want to take the full 5% or if you want to take a part of that, or if you don't want to take any of the allocation for admin funds. And if for some reason any admin funds go unused that you had initially reserved, that just flows into the next grant cycle.
And I think Bart has a question.
Oh, sure.
You're on mute, Bart.
Yeah, it actually went back to something you mentioned. I'm not sure I fully understood where you talked about the use of the state funds. I think it was in a previous slide.
Mm-hmm.
And it says they must all be spent during the upcoming grant cycle. And I know that's an issue that's come up here, is that if somebody, we've granted somebody money, but they don't do it in time, do their event in time, or they're late in requesting reimbursement. You're saying that must be, we can hold on to that money in the next grant cycle, but it must be used to pay for that previous grant cycles. I'm not explaining this well, I'm sorry. Event. Is that right?
So two things. So let's say, what fiscal year are we? Okay, so let's say there's a grantee who was awarded funds during this past recent cycle, so FY21. And FY22 rolls around, and they haven't completed their program, or they let you know that they need to cancel their program. Then that funding, it's actually just already sitting in your account. And when you fill out your annual report, you just have to show that that amount has been released into the FY22 grant cycle. And so either the state allocation has to be spent within the year that it was distributed to the LCCs, or if for some reason it was awarded and someone ended up not doing the program, it just flows into the following grant cycle. So the most important thing is that you can't hold on to state funds for no reason or in anticipation of someone possibly completing their program. So the second part to this is that grantees, if they want to postpone or if they need to postpone their program within the year of their award letter date, they need to send a grant modification request to the council, which the council must vote on to either approve or deny. And when that happens, the council can reserve that funding, except it needs to be spent within a certain amount of time. That should be specified in the grant modification request. So it can't just be a grantee being like, I want to do this at some point, I just can't right now, I'm not sure of the date. They need to say, within this time frame, I will do this project. Will the council approve the postponed date? And so does that make sense? And so if you approve it, then you obviously hold on to that amount.
So the
So
money,
if they don't ask for the modification before the end of that grant cycle, when we ask, hey, send in your reimbursements or whatever, if they wait until the next year, then it's too late. Is that correct?
Yeah, so grantees have 1 year from the date of the award letter to either submit the reimbursement materials or to ask for a modification.
Okay.
And so ideally, the council would remind grantees, before that year's timeline is up, to let them know, hey, if you haven't sent your whatever, you need to send it before this date.
So Mina, if I think of it this way, maybe this is not thinking of it correctly, but essentially we are able to take money that we have been allocated for 1 year and push it into the next year under two circumstances. One is it would be unrestricted, but it would be based on an explanation as to why that's unrestricted, meaning that somebody said they were going to do something and decide not to do it, right? So it's sort of unrestricted funding. We could spend it on anything else that we would want. And then the second would be restricted funding, which is somebody asked for a modification and we approved the modification, but the reimbursement would happen in the second year.
So the second part, yes. The first part, it's the funds wouldn't be unrestricted. They would just go, that amount would just go into the total amount available to grant in FY22.
Well, that's what I mean by unrestricted, in the sense
Okay.
that we can make the decisions to how we're going to spend that money on any other application in that grant year.
Right. It has to be dedicated towards the LCC grant program. And so,
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be able to spend it on, if you decided to organize a festival, you couldn't put that money towards the festival. It would have to go towards an applicant.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions right now? Okay. Let's see. All right. So community input. So community engagement is really important because we want the council priorities, but also the programming to reflect community needs and interests. And so we started about 3 years ago, we required every LCC to gather community input every year to get feedback from the communities, which would then inform the council priorities. And so there are multiple ways you could go about community engagement. It could be a public meeting at town hall, or maybe like at a cultural venue or any public venue, to have a conversation with folks around what they're seeing in terms of arts and culture needs, if they have any questions, if they have any other things that they see as opportunities or gaps in terms of offerings. It could also be surveys. I think especially during the pandemic, a lot of LCCs turned towards online surveys, and online surveys are really great. But it's ideally like it's best when paired with some sort of in-person interaction, along with paper surveys if you're in an area where not everyone has easy access to internet. So yeah, so it's really like some form of conversation with the public that we are trying to encourage LCCs to hold. And we realize that, you know, every LCC has different capacity levels. And so that's why we're very flexible about the actual mode of engagement. But it is important. And if you haven't done any surveys in the past year, it's something to keep in mind moving forward. And I would definitely encourage you to look at it in the winter or spring. And so normally we recommend folks do their surveying during the spring and summer, just because the weather's nicer and we used to have more in-person opportunities. But you can really do it at any point. And again, ideally, it would go towards informing your grant decision making as well as your council priorities. Have you done a community input survey recently? Yep.
Yeah, I think we did it in March.
Yeah, let me
Okay.
just interject here. Mina, I had sent you the results of the survey. And,
Yes,
and you had some issues with email, and I'm just confirming now that you got it, if you recall.
Let me double check. I'm now remembering that you had told me that you had done a community input
Yeah.
survey. So let me double check that.
Okay, no worries. Just I really don't want to put you on the spot. I just wanted to make sure that you got it.
Well, that's a question I have. Do we have to report our findings back to you? The LCC?
So you can just email it to me. And yeah, Robin, sorry about that. I will double check. There's just been
no problem. It's been chaotic, really. I mean,
yeah.
honestly, if you just, all I'm saying is if you can't find it, I'll send it again. Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. All right. Sorry, didn't mean to embarrass you.
So,
And essentially, once we do have the survey or get the results and priorities, we're supposed to put that into what we're prioritizing for the next ask for round of funding, correct?
Yes. So you should look at the results as a way to figure out what you want to prioritize. Yes. Because then if anyone from the community or beyond the community asks, oh, why did you prioritize this? You can refer to the survey as support, right? And also so that people understand that it's not just the council members on their own making these decisions, but that the community is involved in some way. All right, so again, mass/culture is going to go away. So, so the public pages will stay up though. So folks will still be able to see this page where you have the council information, the LCC program guidelines, the council priorities, the Apply Now tab, and the funding list. So again, the priorities need to be updated by end of day, August 31st. Yes, and so I think we talked about that. So sections 1 and 2. Yeah, so we are also recording a tutorial specifically on sections 1 and 2. And so that should be ready sometime before the end of this month. And so I'll make sure to include that once it's available. But between really now, I would say, but definitely from September 1st before October 15th, you should start scheduling a meeting with your municipal fiscal officer to talk about sections 1 and 2. And so what happens from our end is at the end of August, we send each municipal fiscal officer information about sections 1 and 2, and they use this information to help LCCs fill out sections 1 and also in some cases section 2. And so the point of meeting with your fiscal officer is so that you can reconcile any differences and also just to make sure that the numbers match up between what you have on record and what they have on record. And so at the end of section 1, there's a part where the municipal accountant signs the document approving all the numbers, and also an LCC member, usually the treasurer, also signs that document. So section 1 will go over what happened in fiscal year 21, and section 2 will go over what happened at the beginning of fiscal year 22. And so when sections 1 and 2 are completed at the end, you'll know how much you have available to grant out for fiscal year 22. And that part is due October 15th. And so you'll see that the application deadline and the submission deadline for sections 1 and 2 are the same. And that's because we know that soon after the applications come in, LCCs will start holding voting meetings. And so before you go into a voting meeting, we want to make sure that you know exactly how much you have available to spend so that you don't overspend, and also so that you don't underspend. Because if you overspend or underspend, you'll have to convene again and sort of like determine and figure out the numbers in terms of the award amounts. So this will look different, but as I said, it's a summary of your account activity in the past fiscal year. Sorry, my throat is a little dry. Amount available for granting, voting meetings, applications. Yeah, and then all 9 sections are due by January. It says January 15th, it should be 18th. Sorry about that. So when you finish your voting meeting, you're going to want to send out your denial letters first. And the reason for that is because we have a 15-day reconsideration timeline. And so between receiving the denial letter and 15 days afterward, an applicant has the opportunity to submit a reconsideration request, which comes to us at the state level. And we will read the request and look at all the application materials, including the council's denial letter, and determine internally whether or not to approve the reconsideration or deny the reconsideration. And so 2 things are really important here. One is in the denial letter, councils always provide a reason for why the application was denied. So we look at that denial reason. The other thing that we look at is whether or not the application aligns with the council priorities. And if not, it's easier to deny the reconsideration. But if it falls within the council priorities and is in line with state guidelines, then we usually approve the reconsideration. And if we approve the reconsideration, we inform the local cultural council as well as the applicant. And the local cultural council has to convene with a quorum and vote on the application as if for the first time. So LCCs, there's no pressure to approve an application just because the reconsideration was approved, but we're just asking the LCC to reconsider it and provide a final decision. And that decision really is final, and there's no more back and forth after that. So that's the reconsideration process. And then after 15 days have passed of the notification of the denial, that's when you will send out the award letters. And so that's really done to accommodate for any potential reconsideration requests, but also to make sure that you don't send the award letters first, and then there happens to be a denied applicant that actually gets approved later on, and then you have to go back and figure out how you're going to make that funding work. All right, any questions around that? Okay, great. Reimbursement based. And so if you are reimbursement based, the grantee spends their own money first, and then once completed, the grantee submits paperwork for reimbursement to the LCC. And during the pandemic, we changed it so that just one LCC member had to sign the reimbursement form, but we're going back to requiring 2 LCC members to sign that reimbursement form. And then grantees have, 1 year from the acceptance letter to submit reimbursement. And a grantee can submit an extension request to the LCC for approval if more time is needed. So again, this is the situation we covered before, where they can extend, they can request an extension, but the council just has to vote on whether or not to approve that. In terms of the window of eligibility, applicants can apply for programs that take place during an 18-month window. So from July 1, 2021 through December 31st, 2022. Some councils do in their council priorities have a shortened time frame. That's totally up to you. Of course, folks who apply during the 18-month time frame, they should know that funding isn't guaranteed for projects that have already happened.
Can I ask a question? It's about 3 slides back. Sorry,
Sure.
I'll my hand. Can we do partial?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
just making sure.
Okay, let's see. So eligibility, applicants must reside or be located in Massachusetts. Local cultural councils, in terms of eligible applicants, we're probably one of the most accessible programs. And so most everyone can apply except for for-profit entities. And then these are our funding criteria at the state level. So in support of arts, humanities, and science, providing public benefit. And that's the thing to talk about as a council too, in terms of how you all define public benefit, non-discriminatory, and then also establishing local review criteria, which should be listed in your council priorities. So these are some of the changes that you'll see in that FAQ document related to COVID-19 and LCCs. This is just other stuff that was in the COVID-19 response. In terms of restrictions for the LCC monies, so grant funds can't be used for the purchase of food or beverages, and individual students are not eligible to apply for scholarships. However, if there's an organization that wants to set up a scholarship program, that's something you all can consider. We recommend not using technical disapprovals. So if there's any like typos or some sort of formatting issue, and then meeting the deadline is not a technicality. They need to submit by October 15th before midnight Eastern Standard Time. And then I don't know where Newberry is with the open meeting law. but it's, yeah, just check in with them throughout the year to make sure that you're following the local municipal open meeting laws. And everything is public record. Records must be stored in a public place for at least 6 years. And if you have records that are older, first ask your town clerk, or if you have an archivist, where the municipality usually stores older records, and or if you need to store them. And then every member here upon joining should have taken a conflict of interest quiz. And there's always the attorney of the day at the state if you have any specific questions. And so in terms of legal advice, I don't have that expertise. And so if there are any legal matters, feel free to let me know, but also contact the attorney of the day to get the actual letter of the law advice. So this was the change that I had mentioned before in terms of our guidelines. So we are giving LCCs up to 20% of the state allocation to support programs initiated by the council. The council, yep, so council programs are actually another area where the community engagement and input comes into play. And so you might receive a lot of applications of maybe, well, you might receive a lot of applications, but not anything that, for instance, like brings various community members together in a public space. And so that could be a council program, and you could use up to 20% of your allocation to go towards that. Yep, and in terms of the final report, the final report is due on January 15th of the following grant year. Program restrictions. So council program funds can't be spent on administrative expenses. So the administrative expenses, the 5% is separate from the council program. The funds raised locally from local cultural council programs must be kept in the LCC's municipal account. So this is just saying that if you raise any money through a council program, that needs to go into your municipal account. Although I know municipalities sometimes keep the account separate. And then each member of the council must carefully follow the conflict of interest procedures. So yes, so one example of this is if there's a council member who's also on the, let's say, Historic Preservation Committee, they can't propose and then implement a project that would benefit the Historic Preservation Committee. So that's just something to keep in mind when you think about different council programs. And then we've been getting a lot of questions about credit and publicity. So we did update our logo about 4 years ago, just a little over 4 years ago now. And so this is what the new logo looks like, and that's what should be in place for anything that your council does or any of your grantees when they credit the Mass Cultural Council. And yeah, and the grantee should also credit the local cultural council as well. And so when you're sending out award letters, this is a good piece of information to include. And if you email out your letters, you can include it as a link to connect to our credit and publicity page, where they'll be given instructions and they'll have all the files of the various logos there. So that is what I have prepared for slides, and I apologize for all the typos. We're in the middle of editing all the slides, so I'll go back and edit the typos. So are there any questions?
Thank you very much for the overview. That was great.
Yes, very helpful.
And let me know if, yeah, if other things come up. I think we're going to have, as I mentioned, various opportunities to go over like the guidelines and also Smart Simple. And then we'll probably try to host a convening. And yeah, and I look forward to seeing you all at some of those convenings. But I'm always available one-on-one as well. So
Great. And you'll send the recordings out. I couldn't make the last one and I hadn't gotten the email yet for the recording, but I'm glad you told me it hasn't been sent yet.
yeah, it hasn't been sent yet. We were planning to send that email with the recording link on Friday, but we're actually going to send the full FAQ notes on the 9th, which is when Smart Simple opens for the local cultural council. So you'll see that there. And then I'm just checking one thing right now. Let's see. Yeah, okay. All right, so I wanted to look up something related to Mass culture, but yeah, so it is going away. Oh, the other part is in Smart Simple, we are carrying over whatever you have on Mass culture right now under council info. So you don't need to worry about copying and pasting that. So we'll have about your council and council priorities on Smart Simple for you.
But we need
And-
to edit the council priorities before mid-August.
Yes. Yeah.
Before
We have the council priorities posted, and if you guys want to change it, but you should review it. And my suggestion is that you review what we already have posted, which is recent, and make sure you agree to it.
Yeah, I think Robin, you did that in like January. So
It's
I
recent.
recall-
It was 2020 for sure.
we reviewed the survey very carefully and agreed that the priorities matched the
Yes.
survey. So I'm pretty comfortable with what's there, but I can't find it. So I can't confirm that I'm comfortable.
You can't find the priorities, Amy?
I cannot. If anyone can tell me how to find it, that'd be great.
Well, it's on our local council page.
Okay, how do I find that again?
So that's on Mass-Culture.
Is that what's changed? I mean, isn't that still accessible, what we
Okay.
were using?
So it's accessible until the end of the day, Friday.
And then,
August
yeah, I'm
6th.
sorry, you said that, I apologize. And then, but you said it's gonna be carried over to the new.
Yeah, so I would actually just copy and paste it anyway, because with technology, you never know. But we do have it set up right now so that the council info about the council and the council priorities will carry over into Smart Simple.
Okay, well, I have it anyway.
I can
And
read
I just
well,
found-
once Mina's gone, if you guys want to talk about that, I finally found it. And luckily it remembered my password, so I'm in it and can read it to you all if you like.
That would be a good idea.
Is there an update on Newberry Town Day? Is that what it's called?
Robin? What do you want to know? It's moving along.
Okay, great. I was just wondering.
Robin, are you, I'm just curious, and maybe it's not my business, but are you guys doing?
Oh, it's definitely your business. It's absolutely
it?
your business. Yes. There's a
you
dotted
plan-
line between Newbury Town Day and the Cultural Council.
I was wondering if you're planning, and I think you said yes in the past, on applying for one of the festival grants.
Yes, as a matter of fact, if there's no other reason for me to be here this evening, is to hear what Mina said about the 20% versus the 15%. So
Yeah,
yes,
right.
yes, we definitely are. And so since I'm no longer a voting member, there's no issue with recusing myself. But actually, I don't know if the recusing would even be an issue, Mina, right? Because according to the, well, let me suffice it to say that this officially Newbury Town Day is a Newbury Cultural Council initiative. Even though even though the committee that's running it is ad hoc, and there are people who are on this call who are active, very active. Jean is actually quite active in Newbury Town Day. So how does that work, Mina, when it comes to submitting the actual grant application for Newbury Town Day to the Cultural Council for that 20%? How does that work?
You don't have to do it as
Sorry?
Go ahead.
I don't think you have to do it as a grant, right? We just can allocate it it's not part of the grant voting process, is it?
But
So,
I think
okay,
Robin's
so
pointing
here's-
out that I may have to recuse myself and Margaret would be as well. So you want to make sure we have.
So there are options here. And when I talked about the council program, I was drawing inspiration from Newbury Town Day. All right, so here's the thing. In terms of Newbury Town Day, it is something that was brought forward and is being planned with some LCC members along with other community members. If you want to dedicate council program funds to Newbury Town Day, the LCC as a whole needs to come up with some element that would contribute to Newbury Town Day. So for example, I don't know what you have in planning conversations right now, Robin, but there could be like one component that the Newbury Cultural Council could sponsor for Newbury Town Day. So it can't just be kind of like general, oh, this is the council program, because it sort of isn't. But you could but you could like promote and plan and implement a piece that is a part of Newbury Town Day. So maybe there's like musical, like live performances or something, and that could be like the council program.
Well, since we're talking about it, and since Jean just brought this up, Jean and Margaret are working on, well, Jean, actually, why don't you explain that? And to me, immediately, it strikes me that that would be the appropriate thing that we could allocate that festival funding for, or I'm sorry, not festival funding, the grant, LCC grant money for. Make sense, Jean?
Potentially, although our budget, the particular piece that I am working on is to work with basically artists in Newbury and local naturalists, and basically put together an exhibit on the natural landmarks of Newbury. We've already talked to the library and reserved some time in the community meeting there for an exhibit. But that comes with no cost to us because it's the local library and a local initiative. So I'm assuming, Robin, you have other costs that would be significant. It's possible that Margaret, because she is trying to assemble artists that might be sort of selling their works down on the lower green as well as exhibiting them, may have more expenses in terms of, porta potties or tent rentals or something of that nature. And it's possible that her piece might actually, budget-wise, be more in line with the amount you're requesting.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking of. So I think, does everybody agree to that? Is this making sense what Jean just said about Margaret's? Yeah,
Yes.
because there's absolutely down the lower green, if nothing else, there will be a need for porta potties.
Right.
So that makes sense. And then Mina, how closely do we have to match? Because this is going to be, there won't be a one-to-one match, say, for instance, from this activity that we're talking about on the lower green and the 20% allocation from LCC. So my question is, to what extent do we need to match the budgets? Do you follow me? No?
I do.
To what extent do you need to match the budget? So I think it would be good to just determine the thing that you want to do as a council for Newbury Town Day, and just dedicate, so LCCs don't have to put forward a budget like the other applicants do for their council program.
Okay,
And so I think it's just a conversation around what you can do as a council, what the expenses are, and yeah, and whether you feel like you need to take or want to take the full 20% or less.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, so I wouldn't worry so much about like each line item of the budget and trying to match up the budget to the 20%.
all right, that's really useful, thank you. Is anybody else have questions on that?
I'd just like to clarify, am I correct in saying that Margaret, Russell, and I would need to recuse ourselves if we were
No,
in this?
So I think you would just need to disclose it to the municipality. And so there's a disclosure form where you basically just disclose that you are a part of Newbury Town Day, but you are supporting X thing as a local cultural council member in support of Newbury Town Day. Something like that.
Okay.
You're not
Yeah.
directly benefiting from the funding. It's going to the town day.
Right.
It's-
Yeah.
And this is
Robin,
all-
I did-
sorry,
sorry,
Michelle, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that I did update our page for your next planning meeting. So I hope that's still going on because I put it in.
Oh, absolutely. Yep,
Okay.
next planning meeting is Saturday, September 11th. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, so, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, what I was going to say was that this is all very transparent. The town, we were all voted in, the town knows who's who, so there's, when it comes to recruiting oneself, and we kind of went through this when Margaret was concerned about this whole thing, when she consulted with town council, with Lisa Mead. And now that the more that I hear Mina talk about this, the less concerned I am about this kind of stuff. And this has been extremely helpful, Mina, to get this clarification.
And I'm just going to send everyone right now the link to the conflict of interest disclosure form, just so
Okay.
you have it.
All right, and let me just quickly say, and then we can change the subject, but because you asked me for an update, you just heard, Mina, about the planning, the planning. It's not really a planning section, actually. People should be coming with their plans by that point, pretty well baked, and be looking for help. But we are currently, after that meeting, we are going to be putting budgets together for whatever fundraising we need to undertake. And so that will happen probably by, my guess is the budget should be in place by October 31st.
Yeah, and you should definitely try applying for our festivals grant, which
That's the
all
plan.
the dates are still being solidified.
Okay,
But the amount has increased if everything goes well with the governor and the budget. But I think the grants used to be, actually, I don't remember what the grants were, but it's been increased to 1,500.
oh, wow. That's
Yeah, I think
double.
before it was like 500 or 750.
Yeah, it was like 750.
500.
Yeah, okay, great news. And that, I think the deadline for that was March 15th. So I'll look for an update from you, or we all will.
Yep, great.
Okay,
All right, well, let me know if you have anything else that comes up, but it was wonderful seeing your faces. And yeah, I look forward to staying in touch. Oh, do let me know what happens with the chair or co-chair conversation.
yeah, and Mina, just so you know, I think Amy or Michelle mentioned this a little bit earlier. Alicia Greco, who is our select board chair, she has taken it upon herself to try to find a chair. So that's what we were referring to before, and so she hasn't had any success to date. But we're all, doing our best.
Okay, that's great. And if Alicia Greco wants to get in contact with me, feel free to send her my contact information.
Okay, I actually, she actually came over to my house a few months back, and I went over everything with her and showed her, made sure that she had access to our LCC information to help her have a better understanding of what needs to happen. So she's been proactive in this entire process. And I prepared, it's obsolete now, unfortunately, but I prepared a whole, Michelle and Amy, you got it from me, and also did Alicia, a rundown of what the chair's responsibilities are. I mean, it's pretty current, but with the change, with the website and stuff, there's some details that aren't accurate, but all in all, we do have that document.
And I don't know if I've gone over this at some point with the council, but there are some councils that divide up grantees amongst themselves so that there's sort of like a continual through line in terms of engagement and access to council members for advice, or if the grantees have any questions about anything, or if they lose a venue. And so usually sometimes that falls on just the chair or maybe the treasurer sometimes. But yeah, councils have taken it upon themselves to assign each grantee to a certain number of assign each member to a certain number of grantees.
That's
And
not a
so-
bad idea, actually, because Minnie and I met a few weeks ago because Minnie had signed up to be kind of the liaison with the grantees. And we how many do we have, Amy, typically? Maybe 10?
Maybe a dozen, yeah.
Yeah, there aren't that many, but just to kind of, touch base with them. And when you were talking a few minutes ago about Mina, about reminding the grantees at a certain point of the year, hey, we haven't heard from you. Did you, what you were saying, that would be the kind of thing I think, Minnie, you and I were talking about, you were taking, but Minnie, it might be a good idea if you would be willing to set up a chat with Mina too, to talk so that she can share her insight with you about how that might work. And maybe it does make more sense to divide it amongst the group rather than you're taking it on. It certainly is a burden off the chair. But anyway, I'll just put a bug in your ear about that. Minnie, you're on mute.
How would I contact you directly, Mina?
I will put oh, there's no chat.
There's no chat.
Minnie, you should be getting the emails from Mina, right? That she sends out. Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, that's my
All
email
her
address.
contact info is always in those emails.
okay, but I can call you, right?
Yes, I can give you my phone number right now if you want. And I will give you my cell phone number. So it's 860-324-6857.
6857.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mina.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
your
Tina.
time.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
You
Take care.
too.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice to see you.
Oh, and she's out.
Yeah.
Before we
lady.
move on, Jean, this is from I have this on my fridge. The Historical Commission gives this out at Town Hall. Do you have this? Do you want it? If not, if you don't have it,
No, I do not have it. I'm sure I'd be interested.
it's the map to all the historical places, although Thurlow's Bridge is not on there and that's historical.
All right.
I might just have a personal preference on that one.
Actually, I found a landscape inventory online that was very interesting as well. That was done about 2004 by the state. And that had a number of interesting things on it as
This has
well.
a lot and there's a whole map. I can scan it in and email it over to you if you like.
I
Thank
would
you.
love to have it too, Amy, since
Yeah.
you're doing that.
Okay.
One quick side note here, and I really do not want to dominate this conversation, but we are including a treasure hunt in Newburytown Day that will be, an all-day affair, much like what they're doing with Yankee Homecoming. And we want 2 in each neighborhood, 2, treasure hunt destinations, 2 in Plum Island, 2 in Old Town, 2 in Byfield. And we're working on putting a committee together. But if any of you on this topic, since we're talking about historic sites and stuff, have any really good ideas about what those destinations might be that lend themselves to a treasure hunt, that would really be great. And you can
I
send-
live right next to the rock.
Perfect.
Yes.
Well, it
I
should be
actually-
something, if it should be something that is, is not too
Hard to find.
obscure, but the idea that, especially things that people, like the Byfield things that Old Town people don't know about and vice versa, So, but that's a great idea, Michelle.
When you said neighborhood, I was like, my street? I don't know of anything here anyone's. But Thurlow's Bridge, for the record, is the first toll bridge in America. And I think I'm the only one that knows that. So
You know
that-
what, Amy? That is such a good idea. I'm gonna write that down. That would be,
I did know
Oh,
that. My
perfect.
mom just told me that.
okay, and so that would qualify as Old Town, right? Right, Amy?
No, that's in Byfield. That's over by.
That's
Gun-
Byfield. Everything's Byfield. Okay,
Amy, where
Right.
is Thurlow's Bridge?
Over by, it's the bridge that goes through Byfield over to Governor Dummer.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm starving. Let's move on.
yeah, let's move on. Amy,
So
I'll
actually,
follow
we
up with
need-
you on that, okay, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
We need to go backwards for a minute because I made a mistake when I first started talking about the minutes and approving from the last meeting. It was not on April 21st. It was May 19th. So I
Yeah.
apologize. It was the wrong date, but I sent out the right minutes.
Right, well, I mean, those are the ones I approved.
I just wanted to clarify because I said it wrong at the beginning.
We already approved the other ones.
Right.
Are you asking us to vote again?
If we should,
Okay, I motion that we vote again.
Second, I approve.
I approve.
I approve.
Aye.
great. And Lloyd did reach me via email. He had the correct login, but couldn't get through, but I noticed that his computer said Pacific time. So I don't know if it was doing something funky on Zoom for him. I don't know.
Hmm.
Well, we'll find out for next time.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. And Amy, so you have the treasurer's report next.
Yeah, and it sounded from your questions like you guys understood what happened, and it was not all my fault. So I saw you have to either use the money or move it into the next year is the summary, right? And I looked on the website. I emailed the council and didn't hear back. So we were, as Robin said, supposed to tell everybody who asked for a modification. We did all meet. We all agreed that we would extend 2021s through 2020, 2020s through 2021. But to do that, I needed to keep a separate bucket of money, which the council website says I can't do. So we took all that money and we moved it into this year's grants and we spent it. Well, we allocated it to grantees. What that means is those folks from last year, such as Delvina, who want us to fund last year's event, we have to do it, even though we don't have the money. So it's super, I was hoping I'd get fired, but I didn't. It's a super awkward position because what always happens, and I've spoken with the town accountant many times, no one ever, we never have a circumstance where everyone applies for their grants. So we will have money left over. We don't know how much. And then we can use that money to pay for Delvina, for example, and who knows who else is in this circumstance. But we're in a little bit of a dicey situation because if for some weird reason everybody does apply, then we have to use the administrative funds that we did allocate and haven't spent. And then we might have to use some of next year's money, which will require some finagling, but she confirmed that we can do it. So I apologize. It wasn't a great week for me last week when I met with her and figured this all out. I was a bit annoyed because, like I said, I was told also by a physical human that I needed to move all that money into the new year. But here we are, onward and up.
But
Amy, can I ask for one clarification there? If I heard it right this evening, the actual date was 1 year from the award letter. What was the award letter in 2020? Do you know the date? It didn't have
I
a
can
direct
find that
date.
out, but I know this year it's like February 9th or February 16th or something like that. And that's another thing I was told, I'm not going to say who because it's a recorded line, but I was told people only had till the end of the calendar year. That's incorrect. So it was really, when she was teaching me all this, I was like, oh, and then she offered the orientation and I figured the more people who know this besides me, the better. So now you're all,
if they are going to extend it, they have to do that by a request, correct? If they're not getting reimbursed, they have to do it by request.
they have to ask, which this one did. And we had voted that we were just going to blanket do it anyway. So I think it's also 2020 was a weird year. Let's hope we don't have to do it again, but I'm sure we will.
How much was it?
Theirs was 500, I believe. So it's not chump change.
Okay.
I was hoping it was like the $200 one, but it's not.
Just so you all know, everybody has access to the Newbury Town Day Gmail inbox. I have sent you that password. And Amy knows the password. You
The
can
Newbury-
look
no.
at the Newbury Town Day Gmail inbox.
I don't have that.
Everybody should have access to that. So I know I sent it out, it was a while ago, but my point is that regardless, it doesn't make any difference if you have it or not, we can give it to you. What I want to tell you is that when it comes to the approval letters, what date did they go out? It's all very transparent. You can see it right there. There's a file. It says approval letters. Those are all the
Robin,
letters I sent out.
I
Okay,
think you mean Newbury Cultural Council email.
what did I say?
Town
Town
day.
Town day.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
That's
You
why we all
can
know.
see-
So I was
you
like,
can see you can see that I've shifted my focus.
That's
Thank
fine.
you very much, Amy. Anyway, the Newbury Cultural Council Gmail, so I use that email address, and the chair going forward should do that for this exact reason, and this is why Amy set it up to begin with, to give everybody transparency into what we're doing. So that all those approval letters are right there.
It's also because of issues in the past, it's in the grant, excuse me, the grant tracking spreadsheet, which I've shared with you all in the past. So there's a ton of, well, there's many columns in there, and that's one of them, when the dates.
The dates, yeah, the dates that the letter went out.
And
Yeah,
so,
since
and
you're
it,
talking-
It's not a letter, it's an email.
1 year then.
Since
Yeah.
you're discussing the Gmail account, Amy, is
Yeah,
that
you want to just
email
hop to
you-
that?
Yeah.
Sure. I did email, I think Robin and Minnie, I updated the password and I didn't want to just email it to everybody. And I certainly don't want to share it on this recorded line. So if you want the password, please email me, or you can email the Cultural Council email address, which I check at least once a week, and I'll send it to you.
Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome. We should change it once a year. It's just.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay, and now we should vote on the request from Delvina Theater Company
Yep.
for the.
You want me to summarize that?
request for the grant modification.
Yeah, so basically they just wanted to, it was Ann and Abby that we approved, and that actor is unable to perform Ann and Abby, so they've asked us to approve 13 things about somebody. I can't remember right now, begins with an E. So we have to give them the money. We just have to approve that we want to still, we want to allow them to change it to a different play. For the record, the Council on Aging has already sent it out in their newsletter that they're doing it, so. Motion, grant a modification to change Ann and Abby to 13 things about someone.
I second.
Okay, everyone in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Anyone say no? Easy enough.
Okay, and then, we had already had a discussion about Minnie and being the grantee point person. So I don't know if we want to further discuss that. Minnie, do you have any further information, or are you good with your meetings with Robin? And I
Yeah,
guess
so that-
guess
I haven't started, I plan to work on that next week, and I'll let you know. I was going to send out an introductory letter. And of course, I'll send it to you all first for your feedback, but maybe I guess I should talk to Mina first.
sounds good.
Yeah.
We should talk too many, because normally, from what I've heard from the town accountant, that part of my role is to ping people and say, don't forget to submit. So just make sure that when you reach out to them, and if you want me to do that, that's fine. I can still do that. Basically, what I've done is looked at that spreadsheet, seen when they supposedly were going to have their event, and sure, that can change. And there's a lot that were this spring, but there's a lot that are coming up as well. So my plan, I know this is long-winded, was to start pinging people that had spring events in next month, September, and then the fall ones we can wait till later. Some have my point here is some have already asked for reimbursement and have been reimbursed, so you don't have to probably ask them to submit.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You know, my thinking on this, guys, and I know I keep interrupting you, is that, and thank you for that clarification, Amy. Everybody needs to sign the emails with their names. And I think there should be a division of labor between what the treasurer does, which is what you explained, Amy, and stuff like, when's your program coming up? How can we help you? How can you,
Yeah.
You can put flyers in the library, whatever it is. I think and this really arises from our last conversation about this, right? that help them to figure out, you know, to be their eyes and ears in town, to help them to publicize their events or whatever their initiative is, and then thereby do a better job, help us, the council, do a better job of informing the residents of what's coming up. So that was really what I was thinking more, that you're, I mean, this is just what I'm thinking, Minnie, but it's up to you guys, but what your role would be.
Yep, I like that a lot, Robin. I appreciate that.
What do you say, that everyone should sign all the correspondence?
You absolutely should, because the Newbury Town, oh, there we go again, Newbury Cultural Council email will identify the sender is Newbury Cultural Council. Right. So that people downstream, you know, our grantees understand that Amy is the treasurer and you are the liaison, because they're not going to do face to face. So you just really need to make sure that you clearly explain who you are, and you know, and we're just one council. You know, they a lot of these folks have stuff going on all over the place. So it's going to be very easy for them to get confused. So I just be really clear about who you are, your name, and what your role is.
Oh, yeah, but I don't think we should duplicate either one or the other of us.
No, absolutely not. And that's exactly what I'm saying, Minnie, is to make it help make it clear to them who's who and who's.
Yeah, I do, Amy.
Responsibilities.
I do Amy Thurlow, treasurer, on behalf, I actually added an auto signature. I don't know if it worked, but I added on behalf of the Newbury Cultural Council, because it should.
Perfect.
So, and then if you're in there, Minnie, please, if there's anything for the treasurer that you you're going to click on it because you want to read it, that's fine, but mark it unread, because we did have issues, Robin, you know, last year where things slipped past me because we didn't know they were there. So
Yep.
if there's anything for the treasurer, you can mark it unread, and forward it and capitalize for treasurer, whatever you need to do, just to make sure it doesn't go into the muck and mire of red items.
Right. So what are we going to call me?
Grantee liaison.
Grantee liaison.
And
Or-
I don't like the idea of splitting. We don't have that many awardees, and because it would be so complicated for people to understand who is who, I think it's best just to have Minnie be the liaison. That's just my personal opinion. Since they're going to be hearing from Minnie and from Amy about things, you don't want to confuse them any further, I don't think.
I disagree entirely, because when tonight I got a form reimbursement request and I need her W-9. I don't want to go to Minnie and ask her to send an email asking for
Right.
a W-9.
Right. No, I mean splitting up
Oh,
the grantees, like I'll take two.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
No,
agree.
I didn't
That's
like,
too
we don't
complicated.
have that many. I think.
No, we don't have that many.
Makes sense if you're like Wellesley. But
And
we're,
Amy, you're going to still correspond with them vis-a-vis your treasurer role.
I really want to just handle it if it's money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. But I'm not going to be involved in that anyway.
Do you need help with the second signature now?
You know, Michelle lives across the river, so
Okay.
I'm not
Okay,
just
you're-
going over, but
I was gonna say-
I am taking your question as you are willing to help. So,
I'm willing to help you if Michelle is not across the
Okay.
river.
perfect.
Yeah, we're
Sometimes I
both
go to
across.
her side of the
We're
river.
both
I
across
kayaked
the Plum
over.
Island River. We're
Yeah,
across
I
the
can-
river too.
I can get up the Plum Island River right now. I could go.
There you go.
So, if we're on to the next, sorry, I'm just trying to move it along because I'm
Yeah, please.
so I did notice when I was inputting some information onto our page and the Newburytown Day upcoming meeting, that the term expirations had been voted upon because I didn't change it, and Minnie, Lloyd, and Margaret, their new terms of expiration are already on there for 2024.
Fantastic. Great.
Yep.
Thank you all for re-upping.
Yes,
I saw that too, Michelle. I don't know how that happened.
I don't either.
I honestly don't know who did that, because I went in to do an update and it was already done.
Well, I noticed that I could edit certain things in that, and then I can't edit other things because my
Interesting.
name's spelled incorrectly. So I obviously didn't put it in there.
That's me. You can blame that. Yeah, blame me for that. I'm sorry.
All right, and then so we should probably talk about preparations for the announcements for 2022 grant.
Yep.
And also what we had just been speaking about with Mina about our priorities, but Amy, if you have access to that and want to take a look, but if you think it looks good, you know, we can send it along to everyone if everyone wants to see it, or
I mean, I think they were very broadly written when I read
They're very
them
broadly
months
written.
ago. So I can't imagine we have big problems. I think the only issue would be that they, as Amy sort of mentioned earlier, that they reflect the survey.
Yeah.
You know, in the way that you feel, you know, the results warranted. And if they do
Think-
that, then we're good, I think.
The thing that worried me that she said was we can't use, we just ran out of money for a reason. And if we plan to fund part of Newbury Town Day, which I think we do, I want to make sure we have a reason. So the reason, I guess, can't be we've given a big chunk of money to Newbury Town Day and now we're out. I'll read it to you all now. It says, we look for applications providing arts and cultural programs in public venues in Newbury, as well as those in neighboring communities that offer cultural experiences for our residents. We strive to fund programs that serve a wide variety of people and interests, and especially those that offer the potential to bring the community together. To be considered for funding, grant applications should include venue specifics, details about the program, intended audience, and a clear mission for serving the Newbury community. So I like, actually, that sentence is good. So the one thing as I read that I thought, I wish there was a chat and I could put this in for you, is maybe we want to say, we look for applicants, change that to applicants, providing arts and cultural programs in public venues in Newbury. Maybe we should put preferably in Newbury, because that will allow us to maybe not fund Salisbury's art stroll next year, or whomever we need to cut. I think we're going to have to cut, is what I'm saying.
It's probably going to be more money. I agree with you, Amy. I think that's a really good addition. I can't say that. Let me
I would say-
rephrase what I was going to say. What I was going to say was, in the approval letters, when you look at the approval letters, I always put in something that is, it's boilerplate that comes from the MCC, something along the lines of, you know, we have limited funds, and we have limited funds, and it's our a prerogative as to what our funding priorities are. And I don't know, I don't see that that's going to change with Newbury Town Day.
Yeah, no, and Newbury Town Day was 100% what most of our survey respondents asked for. So
Remarkably.
we're in line, right?
Yep.
So
Maybe
where
rather
are
than
you
preference-
suggesting, Amy, that you put that, add that language?
Thinking we look for applicants providing arts and cultural programs in public venues, preferably in Newbury.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, everyone, yeah?
I agree.
Maybe, can we say partiality to Newbury, or I don't know, I don't,
I think preferably in Newbury is,
okay.
that says it.
Across.
Yeah, I think that will help.
I
Just
would
a
add a comma after venue.
little.
yeah, me too.
Add a what?
Comma after venues.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
Look at that. Amount
14.
available for granting in fiscal year 2021, 7.
Well, but not really.
Oh, but not really. Oh.
Yeah, well, onward and upward. Lessons learned. No, not a great day for me, that was.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry,
So
Amy.
does
Didn't mean to rub it in.
Well,
I have the announcement that Robin did last year for the announcements. We can just edit that. It basically
Yeah,
takes
the press
preamble of
release.
what we just did for the press
Yeah.
release. So
Yep.
I can have Amy or whoever else wants to take a look. I can send it to everyone before I send it to the paper, and then also post it
Honestly,
to the
Michelle, you don't need to do that. That's boilerplate from the MCC.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would, that's just, it is what it is. It's very
Are
simple.
the,
It goes on the
Robin-
website. I'm sorry, what?
the dates are the same too?
Oh, no, yeah, no, swap out
Okay,
the
but
dates. I'm
everything
just
else, yeah.
saying, that's just details. Everything else,
Okay.
Bruce Tar,
Okay.
by the way, Bruce Tar approved his, oh, wait a second. That's not this one. Well, the other one, I can't remember, but Bruce Tar, his office approved that quote.
Yep.
Okay, so we don't need to go back to the well on that either, okay?
Yeah, you mentioned.
And just so you
last
know,
time.
I guess, just again, this is just sharing knowledge here, that those templates for the press releases are right on the MCC website. That's where I got it.
Well,
Stuff is
who,
all there.
does somebody want to be the volunteer to be the point person to answer questions, or because it can't be Robin?
I mean, it can go to our website and then,
There should be a
It should
person.
be a person.
oh, okay.
Yeah, chances are, Michelle, Richard Lodge at the paper, he's so used to getting these things, he gets them from every single town, that he won't have any questions.
No,
It's really
I think we should
unlikely.
have a point person for people who want to ask questions of us when they're applying. It
Is
shouldn't
that
just-
in there?
Oh, is that
Robin?
in there?
Michelle, is that in there now?
Yes, Robin's name was in there.
Oh,
Okay.
God.
And
Well,
Nina just
and
mentioned that
obviously
we
I
should
didn't know
have a-
that, Michelle, which means that I didn't get
Nobody
anything.
has asked.
Not from, definitely from, but not from the press release, not from the announcement.
Well, should it be Minnie in her new role as grantee liaison, and then you can put the Newbury Cultural Council, I almost did it too, email address in there? Minnie, does that?
Is that all right with you, Minnie?
What is it I'm doing again?
So when we do the press release announcing the 2022 FY 2022 grant proposals,
Right.
we'll put you as the contact person. If for some reason somebody has a question for something, Robin never got any. But it would revert
Yeah,
to
no.
the Newbury Cultural Council email address. So it would not go, they're not going to be calling you.
Right. But it won't be coming directly to me then, because I'm gonna have my own
Right.
email, right?
Right, it will go, well, unless you want it to be different, which I personally wouldn't put my personal email address in the paper, but put in the Cultural Council's email address, and they would address you, dear Minnie.
No, I think Robin and I created one, didn't we, Robin? I'll have to look back now. Okay, well,
Yeah,
we'll,
it's up to you as to whether or not we want to use it.
no, what I'm saying is when I met with Robin, I believe we created a discrete email address for me in this role.
I don't remember, but if we did.
I
can-
think we
it's
did.
up you
I have to
if-
look
if-
again,
If
but-
you want to use it, yeah, because you could just use it's up to you, Minnie. You could use the Newbury Cultural Council Gmail address.
Yeah,
It might not be a bad idea because Amy checks it too to look
Right.
for financials. So it's kind of like both of you looking at it, probably more so than the rest of us.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
That way, that way it's nothing's gonna go missing.
but then we both have to mark things as unread if they're not for us.
Correct.
You see?
Or
Okay.
just the financial ones.
No, because if it's marked red, I'm not gonna look at my own.
Yeah.
If she reads it, I'm not gonna, and it says it's been read, I might not open it.
Right. If she would close it back up if it was for you.
Right. But she says I have to mark hers
Unread.
unread. So she'll have to do the same for me.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
Boy, she really got stone faced there, didn't she? And she has a Ruth Bader Ginsburg collar on.
Anyone have any other questions about the 2022 grant?
Sorry about that.
Yep.
Anyone have any other points of business to discuss?
So just to confirm, Michelle, I know I had to
Oh, sorry.
take an important call.
Yeah, so we're gonna keep that email. Anything that would be for Minnie, you mark it as unread and vice versa for her, for
Yep.
you.
And are you sending in the press release to the paper?
Yeah,
Great.
I won't do that until probably after August 15th, after they send us all the info.
Right.
So if we met all the requirements that Mina was giving us for the middle of August, then that it was really only the priorities, right?
Yep.
And that was actually the end of August. August 31st.
And we just did it.
Good job.
And just so you guys know, she was going through that annual report. I do that every year. Well, I did it last year. It was my first year. So that's the treasurer's job. You guys don't have to worry about that unless you want to.
I don't know.
Anyone have any other points of business?
I have one quick thing. Newbury Town Day, which is what I mean. We are ordering T-shirts for key people who are willing to wear it and answer questions. And it's just the idea is to promote word of mouth and awareness. Would you let me know? Amy already did. Thank you very much. If you would be willing to do that, if you want a T-shirt, they're simple white with a logo. And what size? You can just email me privately after you've had a chance to think about it. Thank you, Michelle. What size?
Medium.
Medium? Are you sure? Okay, medium. Okay.
Amy and I will wear them proudly walking.
Oh, excellent. Exactly.
We'll even wear them in Newburyport.
Yeah.
We'll do the rail trail. Michelle, we'll do the rail trail.
All right.
We will.
And then you need your little boilerplate about what Newbury Town Day is, which is, okay.
I'll hand out flyers. That's
We'll
fine.
hand out flyers. Actually, you know what we have now is Heidi had postcards printed up because they're
Oh,
more
perfect.
easy to transport. Yeah, and hand out. So I'll gladly get those to you.
All right.
And yep. So let me know on that, Bart. Now I don't want to put anybody on the spot. Is the
No,
thing.
I was gonna send you an email. I even wrote down a little
Okay.
note to myself.
Yeah, send me an
to
email.
remind
I don't want to put you on the
myself of
spot, but thank you, Amy and
Yep.
Michelle. That's great.
And we should probably come up with a date for our next meeting.
You mentioned September 8th.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thanks, Jean. We already had that meeting on the book, so I guess we'll just keep that if that's okay with everyone.
it. That works for me.
And what was it, September?
8
Eight.
at 6 o'clock.
Wednesday. Okay.
I'm sure I got it.
Okay.
Motion
All right.
to adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Second.
Bye.
And
Bye.
Yay.
Good night.
Bye.
bye.
Bye.